Have you ever found yourself in that familiar cycle of just waiting? Waiting for the perfect moment or the big break, that sudden thing that's finally going to push you into the life you actually want.
Oh, absolutely. It's a feeling I think almost everyone recognizes, that sense of being on pause.
Exactly. But what if that big break isn't really about one single event? What if it's more about like a series of deliberate, quiet actions that nobody else even sees?
That's a powerful idea.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive right into that. Our source material, it comes from the really profound wisdom of Napoleon Hill. Specifically, we're looking at a YouTube transcript that kind of boils down his core philosophies on success, wealth, and lasting influence.
And this came from you, our listener, which is fantastic. So our mission today is to really pull out those potent nuggets of knowledge.
Yeah, give you a sort of shortcut to understanding these foundational ideas.
And this isn't just abstract theory, right? We're looking at principles, actual strategies that seem to consistently separate people who achieve, lasting greatness from those who maybe stay ordinary.
Think of it as a guide to practical stuff, insights you can actually use in your daily life. Starting right now.
Okay, let's jump in.
Right, so the first key from Hill's thinking, think big, start small. Sounds almost too simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, deceptively simple, yeah.
He says true success starts with a vision that's, quote, larger than your life. It means daring to imagine something really grand, something way beyond your current situation, maybe even beyond comfortable thoughts.
And that's a really powerful part of thinking big in Hill's view. It forces you to disconnect where you are now from where you could be.
Right, like an empty wallet today doesn't automatically mean poverty tomorrow.
Exactly. You don't measure the future with today's ruler. Instead, it's about cultivating this practice of seeing really vividly what others might just dismiss.
And not just seeing it, but making it tangible somehow.
Yes. Writing it down, revisiting it every day, maybe morning and night, speaking it out loud until it feels less like a dream and more like a standard you're moving towards.
It's almost like rewiring your brain.
It is. It's like standing in a bare field and seeing the house, the garden, the whole legacy already there in your mind's eye. Hill basically asks, have you dared to write down a vision that actually scares you a little?
Okay, so you have this huge, maybe even scary vision. But then comes the flip side, which Hill hammers home. That amazing vision will rot in the mind of the man who never starts. Critical point.
Meaning, the vision itself, no matter how powerful, is useless without action. And the people who really make it big aren't different because their first step was massive, but because it was consistent.
Precisely. Starting small is kind of the secret weapon here. Why? Because, as Hill says, big dreams overwhelm the undisciplined mind.
That makes sense. You get paralyzed by the sheer size of it.
Right. But small, consistent steps, they do the opposite. They sharpen your focus, build momentum, build habit, and they feed your confidence bit by bit.
Like climbing a mountain one step at a time.
Exactly. Hill gives really concrete examples. Write one page, make one call, study one principle, save one coin, wake 1 hour earlier. Just one thing.
Little things done daily.
They build the foundation of greatness. That tiny step becomes a staircase over time. The key takeaway is just stop waiting for permission to begin. Just start.
So big vision, small, consistent actions. That's the start. But what keeps it all going? What's the engine? Hill is crystal clear on this. Discipline.
Discipline.
Yes.
He calls it the currency of the rich. He argues it's actually more important than money or connections or even opportunity. It's, quote, what separates the dreamer from the doer, the follower from the leader, the poor from the rich.
And thinking of it as currency really reframes it, doesn't it? It's not punishment, it's self-mastery.
Self-mastery, I like that.
It's about consciously choosing, rising when it's hard, working when it's quiet, saying no when it's tempting. Hill calls this preparation.
So without discipline, plans are just air.
Just air. Floating ideas. But with discipline, the future becomes, as he puts it, steel, solid, real. It's that invisible force translating vision into reality.
And he gives us ways to build it, right?
Yeah.
Practical things.
Yeah, clear actions.
Like wake before dawn, guard your thoughts, speak with purpose, finish what you start, take care of your body, your word, your work. It's about building these daily rituals.
Rituals that become automatic. And then you see the compounding effect. Each day, you're essentially depositing effort into the bank of your destiny. One coin, one brick, one act at a time.
It's the silent work paying off.
Exactly. So you have to ask yourself, are you trading your future for, short-term pleasure? Or are you stacking discipline like a rich man stacks gold, knowing its value just keeps multiplying?
That leads nicely into the next point Hill makes, which is about valuing your time. He's incredibly emphatic about this.
As he should be. It's crucial.
He says time is more precious than silver, rarer than diamonds, and more fleeting than opportunity. And the really successful people, they protect it like treasure.
Why? Because they understand deep down that every hour wasted is a seed never planted, a fortune never built.
It's the ultimate non-renewable resource, isn't it?
It's the only resource you absolutely cannot earn back once it's spent. Nothing else comes close.
Yet we give it away so easily.
Oh, constantly. In idle talk, in wandering thought, in comfort and routine, as Hill puts it. We often don't realize these moments, these hours, are literally the building blocks of your fate.
So it's not just about being busy, but about being intentional with those blocks.
Precisely. It's about the compounding effect of focused time. Like investing money, consistently directed time yields massive long-term returns.
So practically speaking, what does Hill suggest? How do we protect this treasure?
Treat every hour like it belongs to your future. Block out time specifically for deep thinking, for creating, for planning, for refining your craft.
And actively refuse distractions. Learn solitude.
Yes. Learn to be comfortable with focus, even when it's hard. Think about two people starting the same year. One fills it with purpose, learning, clarity. The other just drifts, choosing comfort.
The difference by year's end would be huge.
Huge in results, wealth, legacy. So the question for you is, are you guarding your time like the precious asset it is, or are you treating it like it's infinite?
Okay, another powerful idea, one that really challenges how we often think. Learn before you earn.
This one's fundamental.
It pushes back against that instinct to just chase the money right away before you've built the discipline or the wisdom to handle it, or scrambling for results before you've really mastered the process.
Hill insists that true wealth comes to the ready, to the mind that's been forged into a weapon.
Forged into a weapon. Strong imagery.
Because learning matters more than earning, especially in the beginning. It's the foundation. Think about it. Money without wisdom is a curse.
A curse. How so?
It vanishes as fast as it arrives. Without self-control, financial literacy, planning, sudden wealth often leads to disaster, right? Bad habits, poor investments, you can end up worse off.
Whereas wisdom
Compounds. It turns every experience, even failures, into fuel for the next victory.
So how do you actively forge that mind? How do you learn effectively?
Hill's advice is straightforward. Read when others scroll, reflect when others speak, ask questions when others boast, take notes, watch, learn, study principles, study successful people.
And this isn't done in public, is it?
No, critically, this training happens in solitude, in silence, when no one is watching. That's where the real work gets done. That's where greatness is born.
Like someone working a normal job, but secretly training, reading, planning.
Exactly. They're quietly building. And that leads to an internal shift. They reach a point where they know they don't guess. And that makes them unstoppable. So the question is, are you putting in those quiet hours that wisdom demands?
Okay, this next one. This one can make people squirm a bit because it hits a core human need. Build a mind that does not depend on approval.
Ah, yes. The need for validation. It's strong.
Hill talks about this quiet fork in the road. You choose. Live for applause or live for results. And he says most people, maybe without even realizing it, choose applause. They perform instead of produce.
And the danger there is that seeking approval makes your soul dependent on the unpredictable moods of others. It basically steals your voice.
You just echo what you think people want to hear.
Precisely. And if you're afraid to be disliked, you're afraid to be different. And Hill's point is stark. If you're afraid to be different, you'll never be better.
Greatness often starts by going against the grain, doesn't it?
Almost always. The crowd naturally resists the person walking ahead. So a truly powerful mind isn't swayed by popular opinion.
So how do you build that? A kind of unshakable mind.
It starts with ruthless self-questioning. Ask yourself, am I saying this for truth or am I saying this to be safe?
Oof, that's a tough one.
It is. Practice solitude. Become your own mirror, your own judge, your own source of approval, and crucially, surround yourself with truth tellers, not comfort givers.
People who challenge you, not just agree with you.
Exactly. Hill gives this great image. You share a big idea, people laugh, you just nod, go to work. Years later, those same people are asking for your advice. What changed?
Your results change.
Your results, not their opinion initially. So the deep question is, are you still secretly waiting for someone to tell you you're good enough? Or have you finally declared that your future is not up for a committee vote?
That's powerful, and it leads right into the next insight. Act with certainty, even in uncertainty.
This counters a common myth, right?
Yeah, the myth that the path to success is all clear and well lit. Hill says no, it's riddled with doubt, fog, and noise.
Which can be paralyzing.
Totally. But here's the kicker. The journey doesn't begin with confidence. It begins with motion.
Motion before confidence, that's key, because the perfect moment never comes. Waiting for it is a trap.
The world rewards action, not hesitation.
Exactly. Even action with trembling legs. Success isn't about having all the answers first. It's about making a decision and then backing it up with consistent, relentless action.
And it's okay if it's messy at first.
Hill says it's supposed to look messy in the beginning. That messiness acts like a filter. It tests your commitment. Certainty isn't the starting point. Certainty is the result of taking action.
So practically, what do we do?
Train the reflex to move. Stop needing the whole picture. Set a plan, however rough, and just start.
Walk into the storm, basically.
With your principles as your guide, yeah. Trust your preparation, trust your values, and move. Think about it. 2 people get the same opportunity. One analyzes forever, waiting for perfect clarity.
While the other one
Gathers enough info, makes a call, starts building, learns as they go. Which one is likely making progress a year later?
the second one, almost certainly.
Right. They created certainty through action. So ask yourself, what decision are you putting off, waiting for some sign? What if the sign isn't coming? What if you are the sign?
Wow. Just do it messy.
Do it messy, do it confused, do it unsure. Just do it. Because hesitation is the death of momentum.
Okay, another fundamental shift in perspective. Create before you consume.
Yes. This speaks to our core purpose.
Hill argues we weren't born just to, take things in, information, entertainment, experiences. We were born to create, to build, to shape things.
But so many of us get caught in the consumption trap.
Right. We waste that creative fire just scrolling, watching, reacting, and applauding what others have done.
And Hill calls consumption without creation a form of spiritual stagnation. It feels like progress, like you're learning or engaged, but it actually robs you of your real power.
Knowledge just becomes noise if you don't use it.
Exactly. Knowledge becomes noise without expression, and wisdom dies unused. Creation, on the other hand, is the highest form of growth. It activates purpose, makes potential tangible.
So what's the actionable strategy here? How do we prioritize creation?
Make it the first act of your day, before the phone, before the emails, before the world's opinions rush in.
Even small acts.
Especially small acts, consistently. Write a few sentences, sketch a plan, speak an idea aloud, even if it's rough, even if no one sees it. The point is the discipline, the momentum.
It sets the tone for the day.
It really does. Contrast the builder who rises early to create in the quiet versus the bystander who immediately reaches for input or distraction. By lunch, the bystander often feels adrift.
So are you starting your days as a builder or a bystander? Are you creating or just consuming?
A critical distinction. Remember, the world is shaped by doers, by builders.
Okay, this next one. This one hits hard because it's so universally true. Choose pain now or suffer later.
No escaping this one, according to.
He states it as a fundamental law. No man escapes pain. Your only choice is when you face it. Head on now while you're capable, or deal with it later when it's potentially stronger, colder, and wrapped in the cruel costume of regret.
Oof. Regret is a heavy costume.
It is. And the key insight is that success isn't an escape from pain.
No, quite the opposite. Success is an embrace of it. Successful people choose discomfort early, not because they enjoy it.
Because they understand it's the price.
It's the price of becoming someone more. Comfort feels good now, but Hill calls it the subtle assassin of potential. It just slowly kills off what you could have become.
It dulls your edge.
Exactly. So how do we practice this? How do we choose pain now?
Hill says, face it early. Do the hard things others avoid. Speak the uncomfortable truth. Show up when it's inconvenient. Train your mind to say, I will suffer now so I don't have to suffer later.
And this isn't about seeking out misery, right? It's about building resilience.
Right. Use small pains as a training ground.
Like waking up early when you don't want to, eating clean when junk food calls, working when you'd rather scroll, having that awkward but necessary conversation.
That's the forge.
The forge where your will is shaped into steel. These small daily choices compound. They build endurance. They teach you to respond, not shatter under pressure. So are you trading a little pain now for a mountain of regret later, or are you investing in your future strength?
Moving on to how real, sustainable wealth is built. Wealth follows the man who solves problems.
This gets to the root of value creation.
Hill points out that every great achievement, every innovation, every structure started with a problem that someone refused to ignore. It's about taking responsibility.
More than just being smart or lucky, yeah.
And the contrast is stark, isn't it? Most people see problems.
And they step back, they complain, they gossip, they become, as Hill puts it, spectators in a world built by doers.
While the person who gets wealthy
moves toward the fire, not away from it. They engage with the mess, the complexity, and they look for solutions.
So this problem solver, what do they look like in action?
They're the ones who take command in chaos, offer clarity in confusion, restore order after failure, set direction when everyone else is lost. It's not about ego, it's about being fundamentally useful. Indispensable.
How do you cultivate that? Become that person.
Hill's advice is surprisingly simple. Find one problem each day and fix it, no matter how small.
Just one.
Just one. It trains the mindset, it prepares you for leadership, it builds trust because you demonstrate value. Imagine walking into a messy situation and just quietly starting to organize it. Bring structure.
Taking initiative without needing permission.
Exactly. The man who solves becomes the man who leads, and the man who leads becomes the man who earns. So are you becoming the person who sees a problem and moves towards it, or are you waiting for someone else?
Okay, let's talk about communication style. This is subtle but powerful. Speak little, say much.
Weight over volume. Love this one.
Hill contrasts the person who shouts and gets ignored with the quiet one whose single sentence can command a room. He says power isn't always found in volume, it's found in weight.
And why does silence or careful speech have such weight?
Well, Hill suggests it creates mystery, and it's just rare in our noisy world. People lean in. They listen harder when words are chosen carefully.
It also requires discipline, doesn't it? It forces you to think more deeply, communicate more precisely.
Right. You respond instead of just reacting.
And that person becomes a pillar. They offer stability instead of adding to the noise.
So how do you practice this? How do you build that kind of presence?
Start by slowing down. Before you speak, ask. Is this necessary? Is it useful? Is it coming from truth or just emotion?
And maybe ask more questions than give answers.
That's a great tactic. Be more curious than declarative. Hill paints this picture of walking into a room of loud arguments, sitting quietly, observing, and then offering one clear, measured sentence that cuts through the chaos.
That's trained restraint.
Exactly. It challenges the idea that you have to dominate the conversation to be influential. Often, the truly powerful are often the quietest. So is your tongue betraying your mind with rushed words? Or are you training yourself to speak only when it truly matters?
Okay, here's one that flies in the face of our constant need for stimulation. Master boredom and moored. You'll master the world.
This is so critical for long-term achievement.
Hill tackles the reality that inspiration isn't a constant state. Some days are just flat, lifeless. And that's where most people quit, right? They mistake the quiet for failure.
But Hill flips that entirely. He says, boredom is not your enemy, it is your confirmation.
Confirmation.
It confirms you're on the path of mastery because mastery involves repetition, involves pushing through the unexciting parts. Most people bail because they expect the initial excitement to last forever.
But real builders work beyond feeling.
They work beyond feeling. They actually avoid boredom because it exposes their lack of endurance. They chase the next shiny object instead of sticking with the substance. But, as Hill says, excellence is built in the days no one claps for you.
So what's the practical advice? How do you master boredom?
Practice presence even in the dull moments. Show up when your mind screams for distraction. Hold the line when the thrill is gone. Discipline means doing it every day, even when nothing seems to be happening on the surface.
So you wake up, feel no spark, but you sit down and do the work anyway.
Exactly. You write, you build, you train, regardless of the feeling. That quiet, steady progress is what leads to mastery. Not in flashy bursts, but in consistent waves.
So the person who endures the repetition grows.
They grow, they sharpen, they compound. So the deep question is, are you willing to become a master, even if it means periods of boredom, silence, solitude, repetition? Because that consistency, that's the real magic.
And that ties perfectly to the next principle, that your results speak louder than your words.
Substance over sizzle.
Hill contrasts the people who talk a big game, promise everything, chase the spotlight.
with those who just quietly build.
Right. The first group craves recognition, often without real contribution. They rarely build anything lasting.
Because the truth, Hill says, is that the rich, the powerful, the respected, they do not talk to be noticed. They talk only when silence is no longer an option.
Noise fades, but what's built remains.
Exactly. The person who consistently delivers results without needing to shout about it gains this quiet authority that no amount of hype can replicate.
So the application is restraint.
Profound restraint. Discipline your tongue. Guard your vision fiercely. Don't announce everything you're planning or doing.
Because talking about it can become a substitute for doing it.
Often, yes. Protect your ambition like a secret weapon. Build without needing constant pats on the back.
Imagine like stepping away for 6 months, a year, just building in silence.
And then you return with undeniable skills, real work, tangible results. Your confidence isn't fake, it's earned through the work.
And the doubters.
They fall silent, not because you argued them down, but because your transformation is undeniable. Silence is not weakness, it is a tool, a profound form of strength. So the honest question is, are you more focused on sounding successful or on actually becoming successful?
This next one is huge and often underestimated. Your environment is either feeding you or draining you.
The power of surroundings, it's immense.
Hill really challenges that idea that pure willpower can overcome anything. He says even the strongest person can't thrive in poisoned soil. A sharp ambition will dull if it's constantly surrounded by laziness or negativity.
And it's often subtle, isn't it? Your environment sculpts your behavior, influencing you before you even realize it.
Like clutter, noise, negative talk.
Exactly. They slowly lower your standard bit by bit. You develop this gradual tolerance for mediocrity. It shapes your thoughts, your posture, even your decisions. As Hill puts it, you cannot train your mind for war when your house is a battlefield of clutter and noise.
So we need to actively engineer our surroundings.
Absolutely. Start with your physical space. Clean it. Organize it, not just once, but as a way of life. Make it reflect your seriousness. Removing clutter removes excuses.
And then look at the people.
Critically examine your circle. Who pushes you higher? Who pulls you down or sideways? Proximity matters deeply.
And your daily routines.
Yes. Do your regular paths challenge your discipline or just comfort your weaknesses? Contrast an environment designed for progress versus one that just makes excuses easy. So, are you building an environment that matches your goals or one that excuses your current state? You can't bloom in polluted air.
Unless you deliberately design your world first. Powerful. Okay, now for a really big choice. Choose purpose over pleasure every time.
This goes deep into motivation and meaning.
Hill observes that history's most impactful people lived for something bigger than just the next good feeling. They lived for purpose. And he states this law: chase pleasure and pain follows. Chase purpose.
And pleasure follows, not as a fleeting high, but as a byproduct, a deep, lasting satisfaction.
What's the danger of always choosing pleasure or comfort?
It weakens you, plain and simple. It trades your edge for entertainment, focus for fantasy. Pleasure, as a goal, is a thief. It gives a quick hit, but leaves you emptier, teaching you to want satisfaction without the struggle.
It softens your ambition, makes the hard stuff seem unbearable.
Exactly. But when you have a mission, a real purpose,
Even the hard days feel different.
they feel sacred. Sacrifices feel necessary, even honorable. The grind feels like service to something bigger. Purpose gives context. Challenges become fuel.
So how do you anchor yourself in purpose?
Set a clear, demanding, measurable aim. Write it down daily. Use it as your compass. Test everything you do against it.
And recognize temptations for what they are.
Yes. Most are disguised as kindness. You deserve a break, treat yourself, but they're often just escapes, not real restoration. Contrast the feeling of trading long-term peace for short-term indulgence versus the deep pride of knowing your actions align with your values.
The person living for purpose might struggle.
But they never truly regret it.
This next one feels very personal. Become the person you would admire.
It's about internal alignment and self-respect.
Hill notes how many people just drift, sort of unconsciously mimicking whoever's around them. They become mirrors of their environment. They never actually chose who to be.
And his argument is that rising above that requires becoming someone you would follow, not chasing approval, but earning respect, starting with your own.
Which means looking at yourself honestly.
With ruthless honesty, dissecting flaws, identifying weaknesses, and then actively carving yourself into someone better. It's not vanity. Hill sees it as a duty. The world needs more examples of integrity.
So where do you start?
With clarity. What kind of person do you genuinely admire? Not their job or money, but who they are. What virtues? Honor, strength, courage, wisdom. Write those traits down.
And then it's a daily practice.
Daily alignment, an hourly correction even. Ask, did I act with honor today? Did I show strength when it was hard? It's forged in private choices, not public performance.
And when you respect yourself,
Your voice changes, your walk changes. Your decisions carry weight. They express conviction. So the ultimate question, if you met the person you are currently becoming, would you follow them? Adjust. Don't justify, don't delay.
okay, this one counters so much modern thinking. Greatness is a long game. Play it that way.
Patience and perspective, absolutely essential.
Society screams for speed, instant results. But Hill reminds us, nothing lasting is ever built in a rush. Greatness isn't a hack. It's a mission earned over years, sometimes decades, of intentional effort.
And impatience, Hill calls it the great dream destroyer.
Impatience has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could.
Wow. Because quick gains, especially if they involve cutting corners or dishonesty, just don't last. This is where character becomes everything.
Character as the bedrock.
The bedrock, the quiet internal compass. In the long run, character matters more than credentials. People follow truth, integrity, not just titles.
He contrasts those built for show who crumble under pressure.
With those built of substance. A trustworthy reputation keeps doors open long after flashy wins fade. Wealth built on shaky ground rots from the inside.
So how do you build that enduring character?
In the unseen moments. Daily. Check your actions against your values. Keep your word, especially when it's inconvenient. Admit when you're wrong. These invisible acts create visible power over time.
Like refusing a shady deal, even if it's profitable.
And then, 10 years later, your reputation is your most valuable asset. Opportunities find you. Success feels peaceful, earned. So are you building a life that just looks good or one that is good all the way through? Character is the real currency.
Okay, all these powerful ideas, they all funnel down to one final urgent call. Begin now or stay the same forever.
A moment of truth, where thinking meets doing.
Hill's blunt here. All the thinking, reading, planning, it has to give way to action. Imagination without action turns to dust. That idea of being perfectly ready is mostly a myth.
Clarity comes after the first step, not before it.
And delay. He calls it the dream killer.
Quiet, subtle, but absolutely ruinous. It just leads to regret. Because tomorrow will not come with more courage, it will come with more distraction.
No tool, book, or mentor can save you if you don't act.
Nothing external will do it for you. The only real power is your decision to begin.
So what does that mean right now for someone listening?
Do something, anything. Not the whole grand plan, just the very next small action.
Because momentum comes from motion.
Not from thought. The second step gets easier. The third starts feeling like a habit. You're standing right at the edge of becoming a better version of yourself.
And that version only appears after you act.
That single act of courage changes your identity. You shift from planner to builder. So honestly, what have you been putting off? Right now, this moment, listening, this is that time.
You're hearing this for a reason.
Act now. You will never be the same. Do it messy, do it confused, do it unsure. Just act. Hesitation is the death of momentum.
And finally, maybe surprisingly, a principle about possession. Own more by wanting less.
This one is deeply countercultural, but incredibly powerful.
Hill challenges that idea that wealth is just about accumulating piles of things. He says the truly rich might possess things, but they are not possessed by them.
Their identity isn't tied to their stuff.
Right. Their worth isn't defined by objects. Whereas chasing every new shiny thing,
That's a trap disguised in shine. It leads to this endless loop of consumption, never fulfillment. Your appetite for more starts to control you.
making you work longer, stress more, just to keep up appearances.
Exactly. Simplicity, needing less, that's actually strength. It's the mark of someone not easily swayed by glitter or external pressure.
And the person who needs less is harder to control.
Much harder. They're free. Free to speak truth, free to walk away from bad deals, free to wait patiently for the right opportunity. Real wealth isn't just what you can buy.
It's how much you can walk away from. That's real freedom.
So the practice here is to train your eyes. Stop the constant comparison. Measure your life by your purpose, not your possessions.
Live beneath your means. Build skills, reputation, delayed gratification.
Yes. While others are chasing trinkets, you're saving, investing, building a real foundation. Contrast the stress and demands on the constant consumer versus the freedom and control of someone who has mastered their desires.
So are you pulled by every desire, or are you buying only what truly serves your life?
The person who learns to master desire, Hill says that person becomes invincible.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered a huge amount of ground in this deep dive into Napoleon Hill's thinking. Just to recap some of the core ideas.
It's been incredibly rich.
We talked about fusing that huge vision with small, decisive actions, the absolute necessity of discipline, valuing time like the precious resource it is, learning before you earn.
Building that internal conviction, independent of approval, acting with certainty even when things are foggy, the mandate to create before you consume.
Choosing pain now over regret later, becoming a problem solver, the power of speaking less but saying more, mastering boredom, letting results be your proof.
Understanding how your environment shapes you, choosing purpose over pleasure, becoming someone you admire, playing the long game with character.
And finally, that urgent call to begin now and finding freedom in wanting less.
It really paints a picture of intentional living, doesn't it? And the key takeaway seems to be, you don't need a fortune to start. You just need that clear vision, a steady hand for those small steps, and the discipline to keep going.
So as you reflect on all this, maybe the question is, what one small, maybe uncomfortable silent action will you take today? An action that just whispers your vision into existence.
Remembering that greatness isn't usually built in the spotlight. It's built in those quiet, consistent choices nobody else sees.
The truly successful don't rush. They plant seeds, protect them, and let time and consistency compound their power.
So think bigger than your fears, act smaller than your pride, and build like your future depends on it.
Because it absolutely does. Stay focused, stay patient, and maybe most importantly, act like success already belongs to you. Because if you do the work consistently, it will.